Welcome back to the 5 Napkin Burger Beer and Bourbon blog, and we're back at Jim Beam for Baker's Small Batch Bourbon.
Baker's, I think, is the sleeper of the 4 small batch bourbons. It's named for Baker Beam. Baker lived in this house. At one time, he was the last Beam family member to actually live in this house.
That's right. Mark and I spent some time at Jim Beam recently with Bernie Lubbers, who is a whiskey professor for Jim Beam, and with Fred Noe, who is Jim Beam's great-grandson, and Baker Beam, well, that was his uncle.
Baker lived in this house, grew up in this house, left here, came back.
Kept going down the well, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, he did a bunch of... Baker got into a lot of trouble. I always tell Baker, as long as he's alive, I will never be the black sheep. There ain't much Baker hadn't done. But old Baker, now his bourbon stays in the barrel 7 years and gets bottled at 107 proof. His bourbon is big, robust. If you're a fan of cigars, this is one you might appreciate a whole lot. Because the guys at Cigar Aficionado magazine, Jack Bettridge and the boys, they tend to like this with those big heavy cigars they smoke.
It's downright creamy.
Yeah, it's
got a different viscosity.
Yeah, mouthfeel.
The mouthfeel's different.
Heavier.
Baker likes high storage. And so these come from more the top of the rack house, so it's got more intense flavors, and that's where that different mouthfeel's really come in.
Okay.
And that oily and that different mouthfeel also makes that long finish. It's the longest finish. Also the sweetest bourbon, I think, it's small batch.
See how getting people together to talk about bourbon can result in a great conversation? Anyway, where am I going with this at 5 Napkin Burger? Well, that big, rich, creamy Baker's bourbon is going to stand up beautifully to a great big meat. So I'm going with the lamb kofta burger on this one. I think the big flavors of the lamb and the great big multi-layered punch of bourbon, they're going to mix beautifully. Mark, what about you?
I have to confess, I think the Baker's is my personal favorite in the small batch collection. I really gravitate towards the viscous mouthfeel and the hints of sweetness, and for that reason I'm going to pair it up with one of my favorites over at 5 Napkin, the beer battered fish and chips, because I think the light flaky fish and the malt vinegar will play really well with the sweet notes.
So don't forget about the Jim Beam Small Batch Series at 5 Napkin Burger, where you can get a whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. We'll see you next time. Cheers.